The Commission has today launched the third public sector remuneration cycle for the financial year 2021-22 to 2024-25. Section 11E of the SRC Act 2011 sets a 4-year cycle for remuneration and benefits in the public sector. The first cycle ran for the financial year 2013-14 to the year 2017-18. The second was for the financial year 2017-18, 2021-22, while the third and current cycle will run for the financial year 2021-22 to 2024-25. The remuneration cycle shall be anchored on the principles of pay determination as set out in Article 234 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and the SRC Act 2011. These constitutional principles are the need to ensure that total public sector compensation is fiscally sustainable, the need to ensure that the public service is able to attract and retain the skills required to execute their respective functions, the need to recognize performance and productivity, the need to ensure that transparency and fairness, and equal pay to persons performing work of equal value. To address these principles, the remuneration cycle shall be informed by job evaluation, salary survey, streamlining the management of allowances, and the public sector wage bill in general. Job evaluation. The SRC Act 2011 mandates the Commission to establish mechanisms to ensure equal pay for work of equal value. The Commission uses job evaluation as the basis for determining remuneration of public servants in an objective, transparent, and equitable manner. Job evaluation seeks to achieve internal equity when it compares jobs within the same organization, and external equity when jobs are compared with those of other public sector organizations. The results of job evaluation, therefore, shall determine the relative worth of jobs in the public sector and inform assignment of rationalized and equitable job grading and pay structures. Salary survey. Section 11D of the SRC Act 2011 mandates the Commission to conduct comparable surveys on labor market trends in remuneration to determine the monetary worth of jobs in the public sector. The Commission will conduct 3 distinct salary surveys, namely, salary survey of all public sector institutions, salary survey to benchmark jobs in selected private sector institutions, and international survey of anchor state officers' jobs. The salary surveys will provide information on current compensable levels and trends, including policies and practices, to inform salary structures that enable the public sector to attract and retain requisite skills for delivery of its mandates. Further, the private sector salary survey will inform how salaries for public sector workers compare with those of the private sector employees, with a view to maintaining desired private public sector compensation ratios across different occupations and competitiveness of the total remuneration across different skills in the public sector. Streamlining management of allowances. Allowances are a major component of the total compensation package in the public sector. Yet, there lacks a common policy on its management. In the absence of a common policy framework to guide determination and payment of allowances in the public sector, different institutions pay allowances using different justifications, eligibility criteria, rates, and modes of payment. The Commission will, in due course, issue a policy that will streamline the management of allowances to improve transparency, accountability, equity, and fairness of pay. Wage Bill. Article 234 of the Constitution mandates SRC to ensure that the total public sector wage bill is fiscally sustainable. While the current public sector wage bill has shown a positive trend as a percentage of ordinary revenue and as a ratio of gross domestic product, there is room for improvement. Wage bill as a percentage of revenue dropped from 57.33% in 2013-24 to 48.1% in 2018-2019, while the percentage of the wage bill to GDP dropped from 10.43 in 2013-24 to 7.9% in the financial year 2018-2019. The positive trend is largely as a result of both revenue growth and initiatives by SRC in collaboration with key stakeholders and players in government. However, the current wage bill does not match the national economic and revenue growth patterns, thus putting pressure on development and investment share of the budget. Further, the wage bill at 48.1% of revenue is above the Public Finance Management Act target of not more than 35% of revenue, thus crowding out resources that could be used for development priorities and enhance social service delivery. The Commission takes into account these concerns in any paid consideration and will continue to do so in the third remuneration cycle. In carrying out the forthcoming job evaluation and salary surveys, the Commission shall uphold the confidentiality of data from the public sector and participating private sector institutions. Cognizant of the fact that the remuneration cycle will impact
the third remuneration cycle, the policies that are going to take into consideration are going to help the country to reach the 35% that is required.
And which will be?
KBC, this is KBC.
All right.
Okay, I'll take those three. The first one is whether this cycle will include salaries of the president and MPs, and the answer is yes. It covers both the state officer jobs and all public officers' jobs. Yes. The second question was, how do you balance fair pay and wage bill? Which I'll take together with the question from the lady from KBC, because it's the same. It's saying, how do you ensure that we get to the 35%? As you rightly said, it's a balancing act, because on one hand, the public sector has to attract and retain the skills that they require to deliver its mandate, and that's an important principle even in the Constitution. On the other hand, the Act is very clear, PFM Act, that we should not exceed 35%. Now you will see that the trend so far is positive. As mentioned earlier, the trend has moved from 53% of revenue to 48, right? And in terms of GDP, it has also moved now to 7.9 from 11. So definitely there is something that is happening that is giving a positive trend. And that is the balance that has been happening both in the first cycle and the second cycle, and will continue in the third cycle. That even as we do surveys to establish what is in the market, whatever results we get, and even the job evaluation results, that has to be looked at in the context of, can the economy afford? Are we able to reach the 35%? Will we achieve 35% in third remuneration cycle? We will not reach 35% at a go. As you have seen, it has been a trend. So the objective is to continue towards that direction, to the 35%. So that is how we balance, and recognizing that a target is not something you achieve at once. It is something you work towards. And the trend in the past has shown that there is success, and therefore we will continue with that success as we look at the third cycle.
Just a clarification there. Are we going to see the president take a pay rise or take cuts? Are we going to see the members of parliament getting the details of the outcome of how this is going to affect us?
Now, as I remember that we are going to do a salary survey, which means that we're just launching the process. We're not in a position at this point to say, what does the market look like, right? Or go through the details of the economics of the country. Can we afford? So at this point, it is just a beginning of a process, and that question we'll be able to answer when we actually get to that stage of issuing the next salary structures.
When is that?
When is that? The next cycle, as I mentioned earlier on, we must be ready. The current one ends by June next year, right? So the next cycle must begin July next year. So that's when it begins. So we must issue those structures before that time.
Yes, anyone else with any follow-up question?
The latest approval we had for an increase for payments or salaries to come to workers, was that as a result of a previous similar survey, or what was it?
Yes, it was actually part of the 4-year cycle. So that approval was not a new approval as such. It had already been planned at the beginning of the previous cycle. So when we talk about 4-year cycle, there is a projection as to how much will be spent through the 4-year cycle. So that was just a conclusion of the 4th phase of the cycle.
Maybe what informed the reduction from 51 is it, to 48% in the second cycle? What are some of the policies that you put in place that reduced the...
So that reduction, which I mentioned earlier, it's not a 1-year cycle. That is from which, let me just give you the exact cycle. Remember, John? Yes. Yes. What issue specifically?
Gender pay.
Gender.
Yes.
Okay.
Discrimination. Based
Okay. I get your question. Now, I must say, in Kenya, especially public sector, we don't have that problem. I am aware that in other economies, it is an issue, that indeed you find there is disparity of pay based on gender. But by putting in place job evaluation, which focuses on the job and not the person, that means that the pay structures that we have today it is gender sensitive. It has nothing to do with gender. It strictly focuses on the job and the worth of the job and not the person. So yes, we don't have that problem in Kenya. I must confirm it's a very positive thing for us, and we are proud to say as a country, we don't have that in the public sector.
Final question for myself. With regards to the drop in the...
Saying that the growth in the last 3 years is moving much lower in terms of revenue,
yes,
compared to wage bill.
Yeah, do you think that is hampering the efforts to kind of achieve this targets that we...
Definitely, in terms of repeating what the chair has mentioned, you see, if revenue does not grow and the wage bill remains the same, it means the percentage will not reduce. The two must move together. There must be increase in revenue and a much slower increase in the wage bill, so that the ratio increases in the long run. I mean, the ratio reduces in the long run. So those two are related. Yes. So if our target was this year it has slowed down to 1.6 trillion. That means even the wage ratio or the wage bill itself should not grow significantly, because if it does, then it means the ratio from 48 may increase up to 49 or 50. Okay?
We really hope to see that improve significantly after this cycle. However, I must say, remember we said there are two factors. There is the economy, revenue growth, and there is also the management of the wage bill, which the Commission does. But remember, right now, because of the pandemic, it is impacting economies worldwide. So in terms of revenue, you will even see as we speak today, and you have seen the revenue is not on target. So it's a bit early for us to say when can we achieve, because it is two factors. We can only control what we advise. But the revenue side is not something we can predict at the moment what will happen. So because of that, we can't really say this is what it will be. It depends on how the economy performs as well. If the revenue continues to grow the way it did in the past years, and we put in place the measures that we've been doing as a commission, then definitely we can say confidently, yes, the number will come down. But again, we will really live to see what happens to the economy in general.
Obviously, in the last 3 financial years, the revenue figures played around